So, welcome to our Accelerate session. Very excited today to introduce you to Jordan McCreary. Jordan, welcome to the call.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to reconnect, Steve. A month
Jordan,
ago, you caught
we've
me in
known
the
each other for
crowd.
a few years now. I want to say, would it be 5, 10 years? I'm not sure how long it sort of goes back, but tell us about your new brand. You've gone out and set up this quite boutique looking group fitness brand. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, both of us are hopefully aren't showing those 5 or 10 years in learnings or wrinkles. But the new brand we've started 18 months ago is called Condition. It's a strength and conditioning concept where we've sort of built around evidence-based programming and community. We launched in January last year, and we've opened across a number of key locations we were just sort of talking through earlier. And we've managed to get to 14 sites in the last 17, 16 months, which has been a challenge. Condition, we offer a variety of different programming and workouts, but the main point of difference that we try and push and offer is that everything you do with us has real purpose. So we don't do anything for no reason. So when we design our programming or how the studio looks and feels or the branding, we really try and step back and make sure we're doing everything for a reason. And that's been resonating really, really well with people that are trying our concept and experiencing the workouts.
And is that from like a bad experience where you've seen people get injured, or is that through your own training? Why have you sort of come up with that, I guess, concept around training? Because there's lots of different group training models.
Yeah, well, actually goes back sort of 12 or 13 years. My business partner, Daniel Capilli, and I actually met when he was the head personal trainer at a 24-hour gym, and I was doing a sales job there while finishing my physiotherapist degree, probably around the time we met you, Steve. And we began training together and following a GVT or a German volume training program that cycled over, I think, 12 weeks at that stage, where we looked to squat, bench, deadlift every week and progress over a cycle, test and retest, and fill the gaps with accessories. So we sort of sat down sort of 24 months ago and had a big planning month and week where we looked at designing our own concept, and if we were to include anything in our concept, what would it be? And it was sort of taking the premise of evidence-based programming that's obviously been around for a very long time, and implementing that into a group training model and a framework that could evolve over time, could still be fun and engaging for members. So obviously with progressive overload training and GVT, it can be very same. So the sort of things we do in our studios to keep variety and to keep our customers engaged throughout those periods. But they actually learn to love the structure. So sort of took that premise and then built on that with where the market was heading, what we thought our customers would want, and trying to find that sort of blend in the middle with what's practical to implement into a group training studio where you can have the capacity and the framework to, drive a profitable business.
I just think it makes a lot of sense. It just feels genuine when you're using yourself as a bit of a test case, and you're perhaps tapping into your own experience as a physio, or your own experience in a class.
Yeah,
I
well,
think.
Daniel lives more than me, so lucky he's not on this call. I'm still trying.
Tell me about the physio. You trained as a physio. Are you still doing any of that? Are there physios attached to any of these studios?
No, I still proudly call myself a physio, but I look at using the things I've learned over the decade or so I practice to implement those into our studios at the moment. So we don't treat injuries anymore and help people through that rehabilitation stage, like it sounds like you're working through at the moment in some of your rehab. But obviously, it forms the foundation of how we program, how we amend workouts with people, how our coaches are trained, and how we look at like real evidence when we bringing in new training modalities or new equipment or new workout styles as the basis of all that decision, which is probably the biggest thing I learned actually being a physio, that you want to do things. Yeah, I talked about the blend in the studio earlier, but when you're treating a physio client, you're really looking at what's proven to work, what's going to be practical for that patient, and then how you can actually get them to buy into that. So it is a
Yeah.
similar framework that we now use in the studios. But yeah, love being a physio, but and still get asked at every family barbecue about someone's sore back, but stay off the tools for that reason.
Oh, so good. I mentioned before we sort of hit record and a few people logged in that I've driven past one of your sites. I like that sort of black and white boutique branding. You said you're about to launch a new site there in Paddington. Tell me, have you had an experience where you've gone to the wrong site? So you've fit something out, and then a year later or 2 years later, you've gone, oh shit, like this isn't like doable, or have you found that? Like all sites can actually be made to work.
Um, a site can only be made to work if the rent metrics fit the model that you have. So you've got to be able to drive enough revenue and manage the staffing spend and the rent in that site because they're the real three variables in a studio fitness concept. So I think, with the experience that we've got now and the journey we've been through over the last sort of 10 years with that probably people on this call have too with COVID and periods when revenue can't be as high, is there a way to sort of bring down those overheads and survive? So that's what we really look at now, de-risking opportunities with the way we negotiate leases and the big fixed costs, and then having a really amendable staffing model that is driven by growth and success in the studio. But yeah, we've had studios before that have not survived. Sydney City or Sydney CBD is a good example. We have a one condition site in Martin Place at the moment that's absolutely packed out, but we've sort of made the decision to take a lease that's quite small. So it's a 165 square meter space in a lower ground with street aspect, but not a ground level retail space where you're paying 2x, 3x times the rent in a key market like that.
Yeah, interesting. It's I imagine for certain businesses like ground floor retail, if you're selling clothing or something, might be sort of essential, but provided it's not sort of too noisy, you've found those kind of first floor ones to be a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to sort of get to break even, yeah?
100%, yeah. Obviously, if the more hidden you are, the more aggressive you need to be on advertising and marketing strategies. So, we have a site in Sutherland that's in a side street right near the Coles and the station, but it's on a level one. We do have access from the ground via stairs, but we need to spend more money and time generating inquiries and leads in a place like that, versus a site in Manly where we are on the ground level.
Yeah. Yeah, very good for someone that perhaps hasn't, trained at a condition before. What do you charge people? How is it done based on like unlimited workouts per week? What's the model?
We obviously try and offer our clients the best service we can. So to get the best results with us, you should be training 3 to 4 times a week. So the
Yep.
best value for money membership is an unlimited membership. The pricing can vary by location, but somewhere in the realm of $59 to $80 a week.
Yep.
We do also offer any and everything under the sun in the back end. And per site, we keep our front client facing pricing options very simple. So there might be two or three, depending on the area. One might be an unlimited subscription. Depending on the stage of the gym, it might be a contract. We do offer contracts that allows us to bring down the price a little bit and show more
Okay.
value to people. But in the back end, we now sell memberships that might bill allow access to 8 to 10 sessions a month on a subscription, or a packs, a non-annuities revenue that sort of paid in full memberships, or packs or single visits. It's a wide varying revenue model now compared to probably my previous experience and where our customers are at with signing up to unlimited models. The reality is there's running and lots of other competition in the market, and you want to allow and service those people, but not undercut your model, right? So that's the balance.
Yeah, of course. Do you find, like I imagine with clients that we work with that own like a 24-hour gym, there tends to be a bit of a comparison to other 24-hour gyms. Like they assume most would be the same. Do you see that sort of comparison made when you're chatting to people over the phone? Is it all about sort of getting them in the door so you can articulate the difference?
100%, yeah, and letting them experience what you offer and how it is different. It is quite hard for someone who's not an experienced trainer to understand the difference, the results they're going to get, and why they might like it. And maybe we aren't the right concept for every single person too. So
Yeah.
trying to really let people experience it through some sort of introductory offer or trial offer, whether that's paid or free, depending on the stage of the site, or a partnership. But yeah, then designing a membership or a pricing option for them that is specific and works for their needs. We have marathon runners that train with us, only complete our strength sessions twice a week, which obviously they're probably running 50 to
On the
70
other days.
kilometers a week
Yep.
on the other days, and being able to amend certain things in our programming and personalize things is where we're sort of heading with the technology we're working on. So yeah, being able to cater for those people, not excluding them with only having a really value $100 a week subscription that's only valuable if you train 7 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like in terms of the model, do you like to sort of keep programming and stuff in house and a bit sort of universal across all sites? Like how does the like who's involved in choosing what the members actually get to do?
Yeah, we actually have a whole committee. So we have a head of programming. I mentioned earlier that challenges me in all the workouts, and he's got
Interesting.
a really big background in CrossFit and Olympic lifting and really challenging conditioning workouts. And we then try and include other people in the committee or the decision making that maybe have a varied opinion on, with the different flavor to the workout that's there. So we program a lot of workouts. We typically program on an 8-week cycle, 4 days a week. We offer 2 workouts, once in the studio, one cardio based, one strength based, called Engine and Lift. They have
Wow.
different focuses depending on the day of the week, whether that's more anaerobic, longer efforts, whether it's more bodyweight movement, circuit work, whether it's um, competitive things, whether that's high rocks inspired workouts. And on the strength side of the room, we really take those principles we sort of went through earlier and try to progress those over a cycle, which changes all the time, how we are programming the reps, but people sort of follow the workout like that. Yeah, so lots of workouts, and getting those right, spending a lot of time on those is really, really important for us. And we probably spend way too much time debating those, testing those, but it's keeping me fit and healthy. So
I love that you've actually got like a bit of a committee there because people have different interests and I guess things that they just prefer to do for training. But obviously, having a committee, you get different backgrounds and ideas being combined into a workout, which makes it very unique.
yeah,
Cool model. 8 weeks in advance, very organized. Means it sort of takes the ad lib away. It makes sure it feels really professional when they get there.
100%. And getting that right, and then getting your trainers and key people to buy into what you're creating, why, what the purpose is, and then communicating that through them and through social media and any other avenue you can to your customers is what's
Yes.
really resonating for us and displaying that we are doing things for a reason.
Mm. I should just jump in. There's a question that's popped in here from Jacob. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learnt opening 14 different sites? Anything kind of come to mind, like wins or losses there? Like what are your sort of takeaways? I'm sure you've got the battle scars from getting to this point in business.
If you're helping set up the gym, do not choose to do the covers on the soft boxes. So I always avoid that job now. If we're in there doing the fit out ourselves, which we often are, I think the biggest thing that happens, whether you like it or not, is the people, the person working, and the key person or us. The number of things you have to complete is exponential when you operate a studio that's open or in that pre-sale stage. So it's about being really structured and planned and pulling that timeline back as far as you can to get as prepared as you can. Because at some stage, it all becomes overwhelming, and there's a million things to do. And then you're sort of really trying to drive focus to the key things that work. So the difference between opening a profitable studio with a high membership number and count is usually down to how well you can actually implement the plan and take the actions and make them happen, not the plan that you devise. So keeping things
Mm.
really simple, getting ahead of anything that you can, and having really the things that work aren't. You don't need to sit there and ideate 100 new ideas to drive new leads to your business to sign up. You need to
Yep.
take action to the ones that are already there, and do those continuously over and over again, because that's what leads to your lead count pool building, and then people understanding your concept, and then following a process from there to maybe a 60-second loop. I think you've run a workshop for me about something like that before. There we go. To sign up to your business and be one of your founding members or something like that.
Yeah, the 60-second loop. I remember going in and doing a training for a whole bunch of your managers at one point. We had three questions for anyone that's following along that's not aware of that process. It's largely finding something quick and not too salesy. It doesn't really require you to sit down and do a 30-minute presentation, but it enables you to get a little bit of insight as to whether someone's ready to join and make it quite smooth. And the questions we used to go through were, what have you enjoyed most about your trial at Condition or whatever your brand is? How's that going to help you with your goal of X? And can I show you those two program options now? And as you said, it could be like a 59 or an 89 based on how many visits and that they're doing. But it's something that your managers and your staff need to be able to sort of get a yes or a no on the gym floor so that they're not having to do it all over the phone. 60-second loop. I love that one. Very
I
cool.
think the one thing I took from my physio days was that there's a fine line between underservicing a patient and overservicing a patient, and being known for, people coming back just to make money. But I think if you look at like the outcome you're trying to get with someone who's returning from an injury, underservicing them is the worst thing that you can do, because then that injury is going to reoccur. Similar, in the way you actually try and sell a membership in the studio or follow a 60-second loop or whatever your process might be. Because if you're not offering what they need and you're leaving it up to them, in a way, you're really underservicing their needs. So they've probably even taken the step to, you know, register for your gym on a Sunday night when they could be doing something else, give up time to come in and talk to you about it. If that conversation is not happening by you and all your trainers and all your staff, that's what we really try and push through our workforce. You're actually not giving them the service that they want. So it doesn't need to be pitched as a sale, it's just service.
Yeah. I like that sort of, I guess, lens of looking at things. I think there is a perception in the fitness industry, and I probably felt the same when I first started that, I'm here for fitness. I don't really like sales. I don't want to be a used car salesman. I don't want to come across sort of too pushy. But I think as a result, we can actually go quite the opposite. And we, we don't call them often enough if they're busy on the phone and they don't answer the first time. We might just kind of give up. So I love that idea around it is service based to sort of find a time that suits them. And if they've been vulnerable enough to ask for help and say on a Sunday, hey, I've got a sore lower back. I need some help strengthening my core. We need to make a genuine effort to actually provide some service at the start there. Otherwise, they almost like get their back up against us, don't they? They're like, hey, I was vulnerable and I said ask for help, and you didn't even bother to sort of take that first step. I love what you spoke about there with the synergy between your team, because if one person's answering the phone and the other one's delivering the class, and you've got different shifts and stuff inside of the gym, we obviously need everyone talking to each other and on the same path as well.
Yeah, so that's when you got to make things really simple, because you obviously have a varied workforce. Most people in gyms do, where you might have someone come in twice a week to run casual sessions for you, but you've also got someone full time that's sort of fully bought into and knows all the offers and the events you have on. So just sort of communicating, keeping things really clear and simple, so you can always you know service the client like we're talking about.
I love the saying simple scales, complex fails, and encourage you guys to think about if you're following along today. Are there steps in your onboarding process that are a little bit outdated or maybe not even that relevant now that we've got, online forms, or we've got the ability to sort of deliver those services? If they are not necessary, perhaps it's time just to strip it back and make it even easier for your staff to follow. So good, guys. If you're following along and you do have a question for Jordan, feel free to go into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer or ask those questions. Jordan, you said that you're just about to open a new site. Is there some type of checklist or parameters that you really want to see in an existing business before you're open to the idea of going and finding another one and doing like another launch? Are there sort of prerequisites where the current businesses have to be at a certain number of members or like just past break even? What are you sort of looking for?
Yeah, good question. I think it's different per site. The key indicators that your business is actually working well. But we've always sort of looked at the membership statistics as the key drivers to success for a studio. So we actually track data really well. We track it daily. All the managers track it daily. They report on it daily, weekly, monthly, and those key things that drive success are obviously, build subscription members and active members and that growing or trending where you want it to against the forecast or plan that you've made. But what actually dictates that number is probably even more important. So, number of new profile registrations or new clients that you've generated in a period, whether it's a day, a week, a month, the number of those that have registered or purchased something from you, or then the number of those that have attended your studio, and then the number of those that have converted to pay you, whatever that might be. So there's sort of that sales funnel tracking and then you look at the levers in your business, why they're leaving, the number, the rate, depending on the area. Is that normal in your experience? Is it what you're expecting? And what are the reasons why? When that sort of equation is in the right in your favor or in the way it looks, you're going to get consistent month on month growth in revenue, membership, to the point that you need. It's when that equation falls out of in reverse, or you're struggling. That's when you know that you need to fix something in the business, whether it's inside the experience that you're delivering, whether it's in the way you're implementing those tasks I mentioned earlier to drive new traffic, depending on the area, whether it's a culture thing amongst you and your team and the coaches. So yeah, trying to look at that data, and when those things are all in line, that's when it's right to go and go to the next area, or
Sure.
next spot to open. So when you're looking at opening an area, that's also, we look at trying to make those assumptions. What will be challenging in an area like a city area or a CBD area obviously has a higher attrition rate naturally
Yep.
than an upper North Shore area.
Harder
But
to park. Yep.
yeah, but also you move jobs a lot more than you move house.
Yep.
And there's probably more competition depending on the zone, but also the generating new inquiries is maybe a little bit easier because there's more people, there's corporate offices you can partner with, all of those things in an area like Turramurra in the North Shore where we have a site, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, is it, have I understood it correctly that the actual cash flow amount or the figures might change a little bit based on whether it's, a country town or whether it's in a city or something. However, you're looking for some type of like stability in those numbers, predictability. If you can see sufficient lead flow, you can see your team is successfully converting those leads at a consistent amount and churn's not over, 4 or 5%. You're probably starting to feel comfortable that they've got the hang of it, and there's stability there to be looking at other opportunities.
Yeah, that the model's working. And then obviously also measuring and tracking the experience, what's actually happening in your studio via feedback forms, via self-staff analysis, all of those things. You need to have your ducks in a row, because the more you spread yourself, the less you can be there to monitor those things and fix any problems that do occur.
Mm. Some quick fire questions coming through. Can members train across like multiple sites? Is it like an anytime fitness membership, or would they sort of just sign up to a particular venue?
They sign up to a home studio, but they can train at any site, depending the membership type that they're on that they pay. So they need to be on the top tier membership to be able to do that.
Yep. Okay. Number two, do your staff work across multiple sites? Like, could they do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at one site and then to the other, or again, are you trying to keep them at a specific location?
We do commingle a number of the sites, especially if they're close by or share similar cultures, like Maroubra and Ramwick. We
Yep.
share staff between Manly, and we're actually opening a new site in Brookvale up your way in late November too. So we will cross share staff to the Brookvale site from the Manly site. Obviously, that'll help a lot with a new business because you can
Mm.
take the culture from a successful business that you've got, maybe implement the more experienced staff to upskill some of your newer staff. But yeah, we do share trainers across. Typically, in most sites, we have a key person that runs the studio that sort of more there than not always. But we have experimented in models where they might work across a number of studios too. But depending on the area and the other people in their team, we don't have a fully set model. We tend to design it specifically for the area that's there and the workload, with
Yep.
that lead funnel, the administration, the class load, that kind of stuff.
Look, I imagine for our facility, if we've had a trainer there for 6 years and then you go and open a brand new site with a brand new trainer, it is a slightly different feel. It doesn't quite have those years of experience there. I think if there is an opportunity to grab someone with experience, the new ones can sort of watch by example. They can actually see the way the class is delivered. They can see how they communicate before and after. It seems to sort of accelerate that learning curve. But obviously, there's that sort of conversation around how much does it take away from the existing side as well.
100%, yeah. And that sort of leads on to the third question. I can see it too, which is, would you take a key person from a site and put them in a new one? Yes, that's obviously a great pathway if you can hire someone as a casual trainer that comes on with you, very young, inexperienced, train them up, move them through the ranks to become more permanent with you. They then manage a site. They can then move to a new challenge in a new area, depending on where that might be, and then maybe end up owning part of a studio or all of a studio with you. That's sort of the dream for us. You do have to be careful taking someone who's in the successful site, because it can impact the site that you're moving them from. But sort of even when we're opening in Paddington, probably early next year, we will hire probably someone new and locate them in one of the existing sites for the period that were in pre-sale so
Interesting.
that they can, be
Yep.
upskilled, learn, the systems processes that are followed, the culture that's in a similar sort of demographic in maybe Martin Place, for example, and then take that to the new site and make it their own.
Yeah, I love that. So it's not necessarily grabbing the person that's been there for years and transporting them over, but it's getting the new person, putting them into an existing site so they can sort of learn the ropes before the new site opens.
Yeah, and obviously it's one way, especially if you can have them on the floor and doing some of the workload in your existing site to minimize the amount of capital you need prior to opening, to
Yep.
pay someone to say be full time and leave their job for 3 months prior to your studio opening when you're generating no revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask with the model, does it have elements of like nutrition or recovery, which seem to be sort of popular? Do you find it easier not to have those involved because it makes it sort of more streamlined? What's the model there?
When we started initially, we wanted to be really simple and clear who we were. So no, none of those things. We do a lot of partnerships in
Yep.
two of the new sites that we're currently building. We do have recovery modalities. We see those as more of an add-on, for our
Yes.
existing members to add value. We'll price them, and they will be included in some sort of full price subscription. But the reality is, we want to nail the bread and butter in what we're doing, and then add value on top of that with all of those things. At the moment, we outsource sort of nutrition partnerships and those things and don't try and monetize them. We are sort of three-quarters through the development of a custom application app that will be used across all of our studios that
Wow.
is hopefully going to take our programming to the next level where you and I would be working together on a Monday doing our full body lift session, doing squats, for example, back squats where your rep range or goals might be different to mine, than what's sort of displayed on the screen as sort of the biggest feature that we're working on. And, we have a custom, test that we've developed and been doing for a little while called the condition score that gives you a score sort of
Wow.
ranking of where you're up to in your strength and your conditioning and showing progress of that over time. So really excited for that. And that's what we sort of focused on, site one and when we were developing the concept and have over the period is really getting the framework right in the studio so that we can adapt over time. Because what I've sort of learned is if you stay the same, you need to use the same principles, but you need to be willing to adapt the model that you've got. So designing it on a framework, not in a sort of duck model. And then building more tools, which this tool will, for example, allow us to communicate with our customers better, increase the service, but also, offer a more diverse, have a more diverse offering for our customers, from programming to some of those things you mentioned earlier, possibly. So
It's a beautiful model. It makes a lot of sense, but I feel like it's so easy to fall into that trap of trying to be everything to everyone when you open and you've got your apparel store and a cafe and you've got a swim group and you're kind of pulled in so many different directions. So I love that kind of concept of it's almost like that minimum viable product, like get it in, get really, really good and known for strength and conditioning and then see if there's opportunities to innovate or adapt from there. Um,
and then
so
yeah,
good.
not like you said, it's distracting, and not worrying about the fluff too much and actually focusing on what matters and
Yep.
figuring that out with your customers, and then leaning into that and then adding the things later. So
There's a question from Chai. Chai's got a boxing gym there in Crow's Nest. Why build your own software and not be looking to sort of adapt out of a box like a current one? Is this something that will plug into a software or will you sort of replace your existing kind of software?
we won't replace our client management software and billing and membership management. We're
Okay.
building a tool that will enhance the delivery of our workouts and
Ah,
programming. So
okay.
there isn't one that we found that could do things how we wanted them to be done. So that's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Very good, guys. If you have questions, go into the chat and let me know. I wrote down a question before you came on today, Jordan. It was, how has your previous experience running gyms helped shape you as a leader?
Yeah, I think there's lots of learnings from my sort of previous world. The biggest one is that, creating a culture of accountability, high performance, and fun that people want to be a part of is so important in a business like all of ours. Because the reality is, most people that work for you and the ones that you want to really people focused and have a lot of empathy. And you need to be able to unite them and create something that they want to be a part of. One, from a concept point of view that they believe in. They need to be training in your studios, believing the purpose behind the programming you're talking about, all of those things. And yeah, I think, really being able to really stand for what you're delivering, that you believe it's going to work, you believe the path that you're driving with the new sites are going to be successful and have reasons and justifications why, is really, really important for uniting your team and being a leader, and attracting the right people to be part of your team. So
I love those three. You listed accountability, high performance, and fun. And you don't always see fun tied in with like accountability.
yeah.
What's like an easy example of each? What do you think of when you think of accountability? Is that kind of being able to touch base with your managers and make sure they're sort of doing day-to-day kind of KPIs or something? What's the accountability factor for you?
Yeah, well, I guess just doing what you say you're going to do,
Yep.
keeping yourself accountable. But from a practical example is the daily reporting that I mentioned earlier, that at the end of every day or in every shift, we do a checkout where the key person that runs the site needs to report on all those key metrics I said earlier, their key
Yep.
tasks for today, their plan for tomorrow. So, but yeah, how can you shouldn't be off having fun if you're not keeping yourself accountable, right? So maybe one comes before the other, or maybe if you're having fun, you will keep yourself accountable. Maybe the other way around.
I'm trying to teach my son that he's 17. He's just started HSC. Um, loves surfing. He was out at Urban Surf at Olympic Park
Oh,
on
cool. Yeah.
Sunday night.
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's probably opportunity for both, but get the work done first, and then you can sort of relax. Do you find that's one that do you find your managers like they're young, enthusiastic? Do you find they need a bit of like life coaching or even a bit of direction around the order that these things might come in?
I mentioned earlier, but the job list is like never ending when you run a studio. You could spend hours on outreach or hours on creating content or talking to existing members to improve your, client retention and customer interaction. It's sort of about giving them structure and a framework and a guide that makes it really clear what are the key things that are going to need to be done, when, and that drive the studio for different people are at different stages in their career that work with us. Some need a lot more structure than others. Some like more freedom than others, and having an adaptable model that allows for that with the non-negotiables that need to be delivered across the board is what we're sort of aiming for. So
Mm,
that drive, if there's a model that someone's doing and you've got a set of rules that they're meant to follow and they're breaking them, but it's working. Well, one, why are they breaking them? Is the rule there for no reason? Is one thing we really look at. And two,
okay.
if it's working, what are they actually doing to make it work? And you should be looking at that and learning from it, and evolving the model that you have, because maybe they're doing it better than everyone else. Maybe the thing you
Interesting.
made up one night really quickly 10 years ago isn't right. So,
Well, that's kind of a lot of the stuff we do, don't we? We'll open a business based on the person's system or their process that we work for when we were sort of coming through uni or whatever. So I love that you're humble enough or open enough to sort of
yeah,
consider maybe this is worth like seeing why they're successful doing it their way.
I think, yeah, I don't really like rules myself. So I think having rules for no reason, or I think the other sort of big thing we sort of harp on about is not sort of having rules for no reason and things people can't do. So obviously with Condition, we're trying to, push a brand across a number of locations that have different needs and wants for their staff, for their customers, and having a model that can adapt, but also still portray what you're trying to portray as part of your brand is really important for us.
Yeah,
So if that means someone wants to run a X inspired workout, yes, it can be run in the studio, not with the framework that's implemented by us to make sure it's up to the standard we need, and it needs to be branded on the screens, delivered, upskilled, not written on a chalkboard with the screens turned off, and you
sure.
making up yourself. So customers still buy into that. It's about what we create. Yeah.
Those high standards. It sounds like there's systems for each of those kind of core values. We spoke about accountability. Is it fair to assume there's probably systems or processes even around something like fun? Like, is there planning around that, getting the guys together or making sure there's time for them to unplug a bit?
Yes, we try, and I think as we've sort of scaled the business, there's had to be more and more structure to make sure those things happen. So when you have one or two or three sites, it's relatively easy to make those things happen on a cyclical basis and be at every event or team workout or whatever it might be. But yeah, working on a framework and keeping yourself accountable to it when you're trying to drive those values is important for us. An example is we run a monthly staff workshop at one of the sites in Sydney. We have two interstate sites at the moment, so they do things a little bit separately, but making that really purposeful from a learning perspective, but also doing something like training all together and implementing what you just learn in a workout, providing lunch, going for drinks, whatever it might be, depending on the area it's run, the site it's run at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then turning that into, all right, cool. How can we give this site some exposure from everyone being here? So content, photos, tagging, everyone posts that come. That's sort of a framework that we've sort of implemented recently. Or tomorrow or Friday's obviously end of month. We have a big push from a sales perspective end of month. So all the managers are in the city in our office, working through a sort of end of month closeout strategy to try and drive membership and revenue that we kind of work on. But we'll all go and complete the Hyrox inspired session that's on at our Martin Place studio and go for lunch and, just get to know each other as well, because there's kind of a culture part of it too.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting key people from each studio sort of rubbing shoulders. I think when you're always that person kind of out in front, you might feel like you're a bit of a pioneer, and then maybe you go into head office on the sales push kind of once a month or something, and you go, oh, these guys are doing what we're doing. They're actually the way they answer the phone's great, so they can sort of learn from each other a bit as well.
Yeah. And then using examples from people that are doing things well where their activity levels are high, so emails, text calls are being made, you know, at
Hmm.
X level, and then comparing them to others in the right way, whether that's from a leaderboard type approach, number of sales for the month, acknowledging people's high performance can help bring others up to that level too.
I There's a question there from Sean. How do you split your time across the 14 sites? We've got our Christmas party super early this year. It's actually next Friday, and I'm trying to
Oh, good.
visualize myself going to 14 Christmas parties like that, and that's just one event. How like what's your involvement in each site? Do you sort of catch up in like little groups with managers? Do you have like a certain role which is maybe marketing and someone else does sales? How do you sort of divide it up with so many sites?
Yeah, we have a team of us that helps support the studios that plug into a framework that keep them accountable to the things we chatted about earlier. Monthly reviews, SWOT analysis, those type of things.
Yeah.
But from my role in the business, I sort of sit in the CEO role. So my main sort of goal is to drive the vision and growth of the group, look at the overall brand picture, where we're heading, what the plan is, what's working and what's not. Obviously have I love sales and marketing, so I really tend to step into those sides of the business too and help develop the strategies, implement them. That doesn't mean I make the calls for my Taramara site to close the leads, but it doesn't mean I won't if we're out there training a manager to be better. It's sort of looking at what I will do from a day-to-day level that can make the biggest impact across the whole business, to make a difference. My business partner Daniel is head of experience and programming. He sits in our COO role, so he really looks after the people, making sure the systems and processes that support them are in place and being implemented. Dealing with any day-to-day problems or escalated things that happen, working on the culture, the delivery of the classes, the buy-in of the staff, the hiring, which is such a big part of the business. And then we have a GM that works across the business, a business manager, some outsourced marketing, sales support, and yeah, building frameworks to make it as easy as possible to run a studio for the person there, because it like an endless list of jobs, but it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to sit there and rack your brain about what you should do. It should just be there for you.
Yeah, I could sort of see you almost like visualizing an org chart as you're sort of explaining it there. I've met Daniel. You guys have been like business partners for a long time now, even with the previous brand. What do you think kind of helps you guys to get along? Like you're still enjoying it, you're still successful, you guys are kicking goals. Is there any sort of tips you can recommend in terms of who makes a good partner, or how you sort of ensure that you can be, successful, like working with someone else?
Yeah, I think, having no ego that you're taking into any decision that you're making and being able to justify why you're making a decision together. I think we've worked together for such a long time. We obviously we are quite different, so have different priorities, have different things we consider when we're making big decisions or having to do something. And I guess sort of considering someone else's opinion, why they're making that, and then making the best call between you that allows you to move forward. We do like making quick decisions, so sometimes we're not all both 100% of the way there, but it's about backing each other, and trust is what we've kind of learned over the time. But yeah, we haven't had many arguments, and if we do, we settle them on the rower, because I think I've got him on the rower. I definitely
Settle
don't. He's about
settle on
six, seven
something that
foot
you're
two, so.
particularly good at. Some quick fire questions. If you've got 14 sites, you're probably recruiting more often than perhaps others like myself on the call today. Where do you like to find good trainers?
Referrals from other trainers and your network is by far the best way to attract new staff.
Yep.
Offering incentives to your existing staff to do that, asking them, going to an area, networking is really important. That becomes harder and harder as you head to more areas where you have less connections and interstate and all of those things. So I live in Paddington, New South Wales. It'll be a lot easier for me to you create a staff network here than it will be when we open in Melbourne CBD early next year, for example. So we advertise online, we use social media a lot. Having a brand that people want to be a part of helps a lot. We do get a lot of inbound inquiries for work organically through our online presence, website,
Yep.
which is great. But yeah, then it's about making sure they are the right people for you and having a process that you follow to make sure that happens and make sure the expectations on both sides are clear from day one. Don't always get it right, but trying to improve every day.
Yeah, I love it. From a member's point of view, is there a particular marketing channel that you find sort of delivers the highest volume of inquiries for you?
I think when we've seen paid ads just become more and more competitive, and often depending on the area, we'll go and spend X on one site and it will work at $3 a lead, and it's so great. And then you'll spend twice as much at the other site, and the cost per lead is $100, and it just is not worth it. So when we sort of went out to develop Condition, we sort of sat back and looked at what we might be able to implement across the group from a brand point of view to differentiate us a little bit. And we have really lent into this event-led lead generation strategy. So we actually have an event tomorrow night in Sydney CBD. It's a run event. We have a brand called Condition Run. This is run event series 5. We have 140 people who've bought a ticket to come and join us at Martin Place site 6:30 p.m. for reps of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So we try and give it a purpose. We split into 4 or 5 groups depending on your pace, and we've actually collabed with Paramount Pictures and a new movie that's got Glenn Powell coming out called The Running Man. So with them for this, so that obviously attracts. At the last event we ran like that down in Melbourne, where we ran from our South Bank studio around the Botanical Gardens there and gave everyone toasties afterwards. And it was great. The toasties were the hit. We had 210 people, and more than half of them were not members of the gyms. So we
Wow.
obviously then have a follow-up process from them. They all got a Condition shirt. There's brand exposure from there. We charge ticket prices. We were running this all for free for a little while, but that's been really, really successful for us. But other than that, just treating social media as the billboard for your business. That is how you get referrals in 2025. And then we do paid advertising and lots of partnerships with brands that we have synergies with, and lots of corporate outreach and all those sorts of things too.
Am I thinking like clothing sort of supplement brands, or do you try and connect with
We
physicians or something? What do you find to be?
both, yeah. I think like across the group, we have a fitness test called Condition 1000, which is a really tough workout. You should come and do the heats with me on Saturdays if anyone's keen. It's on all of our studios, and then we have the finals 2 weeks later. But we've partnered with First or Nothing, which is a supplement brand, for that event. So they will co-brand our screens, provide product. We get exposure across their social channels. They do across ours to our membership bases, things like that. It's
Yep.
great value add for your members, right? Anything from that to partnering with a local supplement store that comes and has a table set up, to the physio that's local to Turramurra that comes to the open day. We've been doing a bunch of things with Lululemon recently, which has been really cool. So where they'll gift everyone complimentary Lululemon. They'll be proud of me for saying it like that. They're quite stringent on their brand guidelines.
I love it. The idea of getting everyone to like a running event, it just seems so much less intimidating for one of my existing members to bring a friend to participate in a run, because runs are so popular at the moment and everyone's doing it anyway. To then have a good experience or a brand association to go, oh, I might go and trial a week or something at that gym. That sounds fantastic, and it's definitely nothing I've tried. I love the innovative approach.
Yeah, I think if it's just the regular program is great. And, on Saturday, for example, we have a hybrid workout that we work in teams usually towards a goal. It's great fun. It's really hard. But if we have turned that into some sort of event, and it might be a branded workout that's written by one of the trainers that's casual from our Maroubra site called X, that was on the Bridge Burner, that her name's Bridget, that was on last Saturday, and you make the class free, you push content about it. It's a reason for me to then go and say, hey, Johnny, I know why don't you come and do this workout with me at Condition? So those sort of things are working really well for us, giving people a reason to sort of talk about you. Plus, we've sort of found if the workouts are really challenging for people and they enjoy them, they're going out talking about them after their session or after their week, how sore their legs are or how challenging this was or how much they enjoyed X. So it's been really good.
It sounds like it can be a tough workout. What's your sort of ideal demographic age?
Typically, we don't try not to box it because it's by site, but typically we'd have more females than males in a site, and
Okay.
somewhere between 25 and 45, which is
Yep.
quite typical for a
Group.
group training concept that's a little bit more expensive than a 24-hour studio. But depending on the area, we tend to have that ebbs and flows a little bit. One thing that we've sort of really picked up is the strength side, the lift classes at our gym that we've sort of spoken a little bit about, are really resonating with younger and median aged female clientele, which is great because we really have seen the evidence come out recently in the media about creatine supplementation, about strength training for muscle mass and longevity. So you often, for example, at our Martin Place site, walk in at a 12:15 packed out lunch class, and there'll be 16 or 15 females doing strength training, and then 10, 12,
So good.
40 something old bankers still smashing themselves on the engine side. So it's obviously about education and making people understand why sometimes you need to slow down, don't need to go at 1,000% all the time, the science behind the things they're doing. And yeah, as the media gets more behind that, as the rise of strength training happens, the more talk around looking after yourself, we're really seeing that resonate.
Yeah. No, I love it. What's your preference, free or paid trials if you're on Instagram or something like that?
Um, I really like removing the barriers for someone to come and train with you.
Yep.
But so someone to be able to come and experience what you're doing for free. But
Yep.
we do have paid trials at a number of our sites at the moment. So we tend
Okay.
to chop and change those depending on where it is. We would always like to say that, if you wanted to try it, anyone on this call, there'd be a way for you to get that for free. And if I was trying to refer you and I was an existing member, or if I said, hey, Sean, come and do condition with me, I could bring you along for free
Yep.
or give you a code or do something that because there's enough reasons for someone not to come to the gym. You don't want to put $5 or $30 in their way too, unless it helps your business model and qualify them.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that concept of making it simpler for like things like referrals, maybe a small barrier to entry if it's, an Instagram or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good.
It's funny though. Sometimes paid trials will drive more leads than free. So sometimes $10 for 2 sessions or whatever it might be seems more valuable to someone than three free, right?
Yeah, I constantly study the two. I'm always open to feedback on it. One of the last questions I want to ask you, because I'm conscious of your time, this has been phenomenal, just firing questions at you. What's one thing you now know in business that you wish you knew at the start? It's probably going to help you for the Paddington one, but what do you, yeah, what can you share with the group that something you wish you knew at the start?
That you probably don't need to sit there and reinvent what you're trying to do, that someone else has probably already done it. Whether that's, and then building a team of people around you that you can rely on to ask those questions and get experience from, whether that's a business advisor, having someone like you in my network, Steve, from a, try and test point of view, whether it's someone designing new content. You don't need to go out and build a new iPhone with what you're doing. It's about sort of following your instincts, trusting what other people's input for things, and then making a decision when you have all the facts. I think is really important. So yeah, love feedback, even the bad stuff.
So good. What have we got here? What are some key metrics you share with clients, your trainers and managers? Is that, just see who asked that question. Try. Try, are you sort of referring to things like leads and sales and like trials and stuff like that? Feel free to put your microphone on.
Yeah, just what are the key things you focus on with your clients so that they understand they're succeeding or not succeeding or where they need to be accountable. So there might be only two or three of those, body mass, weight, how much you lift, wherever it is. And then for the trainers, what are your key metrics to show that they're successful or what they need to improve on? And then your managers who are looking after the whole studio, what are their key metrics? Two or three from each, if you could.
The clients, member, start there. I think strength testing is really important to us. We do 3RM testing, squat, bench, deadlift. We have a custom VO2 max style anaerobic threshold test that we've developed. That's a heap of fun, but also a big challenge where we work through that gives people a time overall that they aim to improve on. And we run that every 8 weeks. So showing progress on those metrics and why they're happening or why they're not happening is important for our members. If you look at the trainers, I think people that deliver the classes only, that don't sort of look after the sales or management side of the business. It's about, self-evaluations. It's about class, their manager evaluating them and what things would we evaluate. Things like when anything to the detail level of, did you talk to everyone in the class twice throughout the session? Did you welcome everyone by name? Did you explain the session clearly? Was it not rushed? Did the music start on time? Or did the timer work how it was meant to? They're the kind of level of detail we have in our questionnaires to a overall feedback survey that goes out to all the members every X cycle, depending on your site and how that feedback resonates. Then those trainers will give feedback on the programming and the workouts on a cyclical basis to us and the programming committee, for example. So we track all of those things from a manager or person that's leading a site point of view. I guess there's lots of things we measure, but the key ones I sort of went through earlier. So build memberships, subscription-based memberships, active members, how the lead funnel is working, all those statistics we went through. So new profile creations, trial purchases, first visit, conversion to paid, build, conversion to paid active, levers. We also track attendance a lot, average attendance per site, attendance over a period of time, week or month, wage spend for that key person too, why, with all different tools. They actually self-report on it on a daily and weekly basis, depending on the statistic, and monthly we kind of look at those things. We used to use tools that reported for people. We kind of found that having people self-report has been very good for making them understand the
Because they don't look at it otherwise, do they? They just, yeah.
Yeah, we actually built a full custom dashboard that sort of flash red or green if you're in the parameters you're meant to before, but it works a lot better jumping in for 5 minutes, knowing how to pull all those numbers on the software you use and understanding why, and then having strategies to improve them. So,
Jordan, I promised I would get you away at 2 o'clock. You've now gone to 2:02. So thank you so much. I know you've got back-to-back meetings today. I just want to say thanks again massively for your contribution today. It's been fantastic.
No, thanks very much for having me. Steve and Tara asked about our lead strategies. Come to my run event and you'll see tomorrow night. There's still some tickets, so you're more than welcome to come run reps of the bridge with me if anyone's there, or love to connect with different people. So I'm sure Steve will pass on my details if anyone wants to reach out. Come and try condition with me, grab a coffee. I'm always happy to help whoever I can. Thanks very much, Steve. So
super generous. Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I'll be in touch. You're a champion.
sounds good. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
mate.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your day. Thanks, guys.